Hi, my name's Ben, and today we'll be identifying the Circle of Wildfire Druid. Ow. Druids of the Circle of Wildfire believe not only in nature's healing properties, but also its destructive might. And to symbolize this, they seek the aid of a fiery spirit to aid them in combat. When this archetype came out in the UA, I was so excited because if there are any classes that really are hurting for more elemental style archetypes, it's the Druid and the Sorcerer. So when I saw that the Druid was getting a fire themed subclass, I was like, this is great. This is the beginning of exactly what I'm looking for. And the UA was neat and powerful and punchy. Druid's got Fireball, which was crazy, and so I'm really interested to see if the Wildfire Druid lives up to its Unearthed Arcana rendition. Starting off at 2nd level, Circle of Wildfire Druids gain access to Circle of Wildfire spells. These spells are always prepared as soon as you have access to them, and if they were not originally on the Druid spell list, they become Druid spells for you. Now, we're going to notice a trend with these where there's a pretty healthy mix between destructive spells and supporting healing spells, symbolizing this Druid's connection with both the destructive and healing powers of fire. We are seeing a couple spells here that Druids don't normally have access to. Right away at 2nd level, having access to Burning Hands is new for them, as well as Scorching Ray, Flame Strike later on. But we'll also be seeing a lot of things that already are on the Druid spell list. Looking at 5th level, with the changes in Tasha's, both Plant Growth and Revivify are both already on the Druid spell list, so they're not really getting anything new from that. We're also going to be seeing this Druid running into a problem where they're kind of wanting to be a blaster and they're kind of wanting to be healing support. But since their spells are fire damage, they're going to have a lot of trouble later in the game as they're going to be facing a lot of creatures that are resistant or immune to that type of damage. Fire is the most resisted damage type in the game, so for this Druid, something like Elemental Adept is almost a must pick if you want to stay effective against anything you're going to face. I'm also not really sure why they took Fireball off of this Druid's spell list. I guess it kind of clashes with the flavor if the Druid's trying to do like a controlled burn, but it was a really neat pick for this Druid, and it really established that the Druid could sit right alongside the Wizard and the Sorcerer and the Warlock in being a blaster who can deal a lot of damage. I am glad, however, that some of these spells have a healthy mix between action and bonus action economy, as we're going to see with their other 2nd level ability that they're going to have some interesting action economy. Also at 2nd level, you gain Summon Wildfire Spirit. As an action, you can summon your spirit in a space within 30 feet of you. Each creature besides you within 10 feet of that space must succeed on a Dex saving throw or take 2d6 fire damage. Now, the spirit lasts for an hour or until you summon another spirit or die. In combat, the spirit shares your initiative but goes immediately after you. If you don't use your bonus action to command it, it'll only take the dodge action. However, if you are incapacitated, the spirit can take whatever action it wants, not just the dodge action. Now, while I talk about the spirit, I'm going to have the stat block of the spirit itself up next to me so that I can discuss some of its key features. Now, this spirit is action hungry. The fact that you need to use your action to summon it and then a bonus action to command it after the fact means that if it's your first combat of the day, your first turn is probably going to look like summoning the spirit and then using your bonus action to command it. Because when you summon it, it deals damage. You're probably going to want to summon it near enemies, But if you notice, the spirit only has a 13 AC, and that does not scale. You do not add your proficiency bonus to that. That is the AC it will have for the entire game. So, since it is so squishy and easy to hit, you're also going to want to get it away from the enemies as quickly as possible. Now, it is true that you could just use your bonus action on something else, like Flaming Sphere, and just have the spirit move away on itself and take the dodge action. But if you look, the thing that you really want to use is that fiery teleportation. This allows the spirit, as well as any allies within 5 feet of it, to teleport 15 feet away as an action. This is a really nice kind of get out of dodge feature that can help both you, being a squishy druid who's trying to do their blasty supporty thing, and the squishy spirit kind of get out of the line of fire, so to speak, and get back to the sort of mid or back line after you summon it. Personally, I kind of wish it was a bonus action to summon the spirit. I mean, Circle of Stars gets to use their thing as a bonus action. Circle of the Moon, their whole thing is wild shaping as a bonus action. So I really don't think there isn't a precedent for that, and that would allow you to do a little bit more with your first turn of combat when you're bringing this thing into the fray. Especially since this archetype is giving you spells that use your bonus action, like Flaming Sphere. So now you have to choose whether you're going to use your Circle of Wildfire spells, or if you're going to use your class feature. This is going to create a lot of trouble for you as a Circle of Wildfire druid, as you can't really use all of the tools available to you because of the action economy. So honestly, to me, is a weird design choice, and I would have much preferred if all the spells the Circle of Wildfire druid gets are action-based, and then the spirit uses your bonus action exclusively, so you can have the clear definition of what to use with your actions. Or heck, even in the summon spirit text itself, having something where, like, if you cast a fire or healing spell, then you can command the spirit as part of the casting of that spell. I feel like that would have helped this archetype work a lot more naturally with its own abilities. At 6th level, you gain Enhanced Bond. When you have your spirit summoned, you can add 1d8 to any fire damage or any healing you would do. Some caveats: this only works on spells, and it only works on one roll. So if you're doing something like Mass Cure Wounds, you can only pick one person to get that extra healing. This is a nice little damage and healing buff, but this does create a problem because just 3 levels prior, you got Flaming Sphere, and now you are never going to use that spell because you're always going to want your spirit summoned, which means you're always going to want to use its bonus actions. So that entire spell just totally gone. And I wish there was something baked into this archetype that was a little bit akin to Elemental Adept and allowed you to ignore resistances so that you could really deal the kind of damage that the archetype wants you to deal. Something I really like about this ability is that little tag at the end that says as long as the spell doesn't have a range of self, you can cast it through your spirit instead of yourself. This is neat because if you also picked up Find Familiar from the Tasha's variant rules, this means you have a lot of options on where you can cast spells from, especially touch spells like Cure Wounds. You can have a familiar on your buddy over here, and then you have your spirit over there, and you can cast spells in front of you, and you can cast spells from your spirit, and you can cast spells from your familiar, giving you a lot of mobility on the battlefield as far as your spell slots are concerned. Moving on to what I think is my favorite ability of this archetype is Cauterizing Flames. At 10th level, when a creature of size small or larger dies within 30 feet of you or your summoned spirit, you can cause a small, harmless spectral flame to appear in its space. When another creature moves into this space, you can expend your reaction to either heal or deal fire damage to the tune of 2d10 plus your wisdom modifier to that creature. You can use this reaction up to a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus before you have to expend a long rest to do so again. I think this ability is great. It really hits the flavor of the archetype really nicely and gives you a really cool thing to do with your reaction, which isn't necessarily something that the Druid in itself has a lot of things to do with. I mean, you're not in a lot of situations where you're going to be using attack of opportunity. So having this ability where you can either damage creatures or heal your allies is going to be really, really useful. I do see this mostly as a healing buff. I can't see a lot of situations where you're going to get this off more than once in a combat. I feel like if people saw that walking through that spectral fire that just appeared over their dead friend exploded them in flame, that they wouldn't be too keen on doing that with all of their other dead friends. So I mostly see this as a nice 2d10 plus your wisdom modifier healing that you can do to your allies when they really need it. This also opens up a really neat synergy with your summon because it doesn't say that they need to enter the space on their turn. So you can, if the positioning is available, use the fiery teleportation ability of your summon to get your allies into those healing flames with no action cost to them. Just remember that as this is not a spell, you will not be getting that extra damage or healing that is available from Enhanced Bond, which is something to consider. This brings us to the last ability of this Druid archetype called Blazing Revival. At 14th level, if your spirit is within 120 feet of you, when you drop unconscious due to being dropped to 0 hit points, you can instead cause your spirit to drop to 0 hit points. You then regain half of your hit points and rise to your feet. Once you use this ability, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. This is a flavorful and powerful ability. No matter what your hit points were when you dropped to 0 hit points, you gain half of your total hit points back because of this ability, giving you a really good survivability and even leading to some tactical choices where it might be better for you to run into the fray hoping to be knocked unconscious so that you can get all those hit points back. All in all, I'm not overwhelmed by this ability, but I'm not underwhelmed either. To be honest, I'm fairly whelmed. And that's pretty much the opinion I have of this archetype as a whole. As far as Tasha's is concerned, as far as the Druid as a whole is concerned, I don't think that this is terribly underpowered. I don't think it's terribly overpowered either. I get a general meh from it. It has the problem of being entirely fire-focused, so you're always going to have that problem of damage unless you pick up Elemental Adept, which I really think is a must-pick for this archetype. I also really can't get over the fact that this has Flaming Sphere. Maybe I'm being a broken record, but it's just so weird to me that they would force the fight for bonus action economy into this archetype when they could have just picked a different fire spell. All in all, this cleric is able to do its healing thing pretty good, and its blasting capabilities only so-so. But since you are balancing out those two sides of combat in one archetype, I think this does pretty okay, and I can confidently give the Circle of Wildfire Druid a 2.5 cauldrons out of 5. How do you feel about the Circle of Wildfire Druid? Do you agree with me? Do you think it deserves more cauldrons? Maybe less? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like what we're doing here, think about liking the video. And if you like all the content that we have on this channel, please consider subscribing. This video is actually part of a series we do here called Identify, where we are going through all of the Tasha's archetypes and giving our opinions as well as explaining the features available therein. Go ahead and link that above, or above, one of those is right. And there will be a playlist there with all of the identifies if you want to see all of the archetypes that we've already reviewed. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on your next short rest.